All right, welcome, welcome, welcome. It is October 23rd, 2020. I think it's been 300 days since I've had a haircut. And today is PWA Community Sync. We have uh, a relatively light agenda, but I think it's with enough effort we can consume all of the time with these two amazing topics. Um, so. Let's go ahead and just dive right into the demos, and then I'll do all the fun metric stuff, and then we'll talk about the contribution day that's going on right now. So, James Kalkabin, if you are ready, you're up first with your extensibility docs updates.
Yep. Thanks, Tommy. Let me share my screen. And you'll see the browser.
Yes.
Yep. All right. Cool. All right. So some updates on the docs end. We recently published two topics. They're under tutorials. One of them is an overview of how to intercept a target. This just provides context and kind of general information how to intercept how to intercept a target just in general. It goes over what intercept file is, the name and location, and just a high-level overview of how the interception process works and what order it's in. More interesting topic is this tutorial on how to modify a talent results, which is a deeper dive in how to intercept a specific talent. In this tutorial, it's the use product full detail talent. And you can wrap that function call with your own logic. I provide, specific code samples for each step of this in this tutorial. Even what the package.json file is. What the tutorial actually does is it teaches you how to create an extension that you can install on a local instance of your storefront project. So yeah, I provide the code samples and some explanation what the code actually does. Define the intercept file, make a data fetch hook. All the steps are here with explanations, and then at the bottom instructions how to test on local instance of your storefront. The other one I wanted to present was an in-progress tutorial that I'm currently working on, and it's on how to add a new environment variable. This has been something that the community's been asking for on how to actually get value that you set in your .env file into a front-end component, a React component. And this tutorial does that. It follows the same kind of pattern as the modified talent results one. It gives you all the source code that you need in your project, some explanations. For this tutorial, it'll teach you how to create a placeholder image component, which reads environment variable that you set and just renders an image. If you're not familiar with a placeholder image, it's basically just an image that you put to kind of help you structure your page. Nothing fancy or anything, but this component will let you, this tutorial will let you specify the service that provides that image in an environment variable. So I go over the steps on how to export it from the package, and then intercepting with the intercept file. The interesting thing about this tutorial is at the bottom, you can actually check out the full solution in Code Sandbox. And you'll see that how it loads. You'll see the structure that I described in the tutorial with the actual samples, and you can actually navigate to the demo page that the tutorial explains on how to create. And you'll see placeholder image here. Right now, it's getting it from this source, which is defined in this environment variable. I've also provided other values that you can play around with. Since it's a code sandbox, you can fork this and then replace this and restart the server. Since I have some time, I'll do that right now to kind of show you. First, you fork it, and then you can change. We'll just change it to this. And then you kind of have to wait for the sandbox to start. But are there any questions on the tutorials that I've presented while we wait for the sandbox to load up? So yeah, I'm looking for basically feedback on if this is something useful, these tutorials and the code sandbox. Anyways, so yeah, if a sandbox hasn't been accessed recently, it'll go through this whole process of downloading the packages and actually building the application. But once that's built, it'll render the app in this little browser section. The one thing I do want to note is the code sandbox uses an iframe to render Venya. And since we send specific security headers, we won't be able to access certain pages. Like, for example, this doesn't work. But if you open it up in a new window like this, it works fine. So yeah, whoops. Let's go. Demo. Oh wait, didn't do that. I need to start the server. Anyways, I'll iron all this out before we publish this topic. But are there any questions? Nope. Right. Well, I'll stop sharing.
Awesome. Well, James, that was incredible. Those are two great docs that I think will help out a lot of contributors to kind of get up and running with the extensibility framework. And I am continually impressed by the fact that the app can run in Code Sandbox.
Yeah.
Like
So yeah,
is-
be on the lookout for this next week. I think it's when we'll be able to publish it. It still needs to be reviewed and all that, but yeah, I think this will be a neat little tool for developers to actually get their hands on the code and play around with the tutorial. If they don't have access to an actual running instance of Venya. And also just a demo in general.
Yeah,
Oh, wait.
absolutely. It's super easy to kind of bootstrap the application yourself, but yeah, for anybody kind of just maybe not familiar with the stack and just wants to mess around, that sandbox is a really awesome jumping off point.
Yeah, hold on, let me share. I think it finished filing and then.
You got your Phil Murray now?
Yep, there you go. Phil Murray. Let's see, and then, there it is. But yeah, you can either look for the PR or branch that I'm working on if you want to really access it right now, because this Code Sandbox is live. The content just has to be reviewed, but yeah, that's all on my end.
Awesome. Will, got a nice work, Calcabin. No questions. Will, if you do have questions, you're in luck because we are not going to shift our focus too much. We're going to remain on the track of extensibility, and our architect lead, Jimmy Sanford, is going to run through the new Targetables API that was graciously provided to us by Mr. Zetlin. He's kind of just going to run through some of the fun stuff that you can now do and what that API simplifies when you need to add new targets. So, Jimmy, go ahead and take it away if you're ready.
Sure. Yeah, should be interesting. So, I know some of you tend to look around the open PRs and see what interesting things are coming down the pipe. So you may have seen this one, but I'm going to show it off in action. This is the new Targetables API, which is essentially a new layer on top of the existing Targets API that we already have. And the goal of this is to add a lot more power and move the APIs a lot higher level. So in fewer lines, you should be able to do a lot more with targetables in terms of extension. The current drawback of this approach is that we can only open this up to scaffolded apps, not to extensions yet, because there's enough power here to change pretty much any line that you want in Venia UI or program. And that's, not a great idea to expose to extensions that are supposed to be working together just yet. But in the meantime, if you have a scaffolded app and you want to make changes without having to copy over the source code of a bunch of files like you currently have to, then this is going to be a lot better. So what we're going to do here, what I'm going to show is how to take a single component such as our select list and replace it with another one through extension. So this is develop up here. You can see this is the select element here, and if I come over to components, then my DevTools breaks. There we go. If I come over here to components, then you can see that we're in the select component here. So this is the country component, and inside of that we've got our select component, which is wrapped with a couple of HOCs. But essentially our select component just takes in what field it is so that it can participate in the form context. And it gets the API for a field, it gets the state of a field, a ref, but most importantly here we've got the items. These are all the states. So if we pull that up in code, that's going to be this file here. It's going to be our select component. And what our select component does is it takes these items in as props. It takes the options that it gets, and it maps those to option components. And then it renders the elements here, which is going to be at the top level this field icons class, which is kind of a wrapper around the select, and a message. So if we were to replace this component with something like React Select, which is a popular non-default select list, right? A JavaScript dropdown. Then where we would do that is right here. We would probably want to say, cut out the field icons and all its children here, and put in React Select. And then we would probably have to do some sort of thin mapping of the props and state that we have on our own end to the exact props that React Select expects for its component. So what Targetable is going to give us is it is going to give us a bunch of methods that we can use to operate on a given file as long as we can understand what that file is. And so when we target a particular React component, BuildPack will now allow us to say, target this particular file in Vinia UI as a React component. And that's going to open up these methods to us. It'll open up some methods just because it's a module, but it'll also allow us to start manipulating the JSX directly, adding imports, and performing all of these different operations, such as appending JSX elements, prepending them, inserting before and after, removing a JSX node, replacing a JSX node, even surrounding one, or editing the individual props of a JSX node. And how these work is these work based on a Babel plugin. So the code that ends up getting delivered to the client will be our code plus whatever transforms you have in your Intercept file. And so we can essentially do surgery on the select component before it ever reaches the browser. So in the local Intercept file of my scaffolded app here, Vinia Concept, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the Targetables API out of build pack. I'm going to use the local targets, which is an argument to the function here. And I'm going to target a particular file in Vinia UI, in this case, the select component that we saw. Use targetables.react component. That's going to give me these methods we just looked through. And then I'm going to add an import to that file with this string here that says import fancy select from a component I've defined locally here called fancy select. And then in my original select file, I'm going to replace all instances of JSX that match this string here, field icons, with the second argument here, which is replace them with an element of fancy select, which we'll go look at here in a second, and pull some identifiers here out of scope. So we're going to spread whatever the rest property is, and field state, and options. And then using the binding we got back from add import, that's the type of element we'll render here. And that should do the exact operation that we were just asking for. So if we come in here and look at what fancy select is, this is that thin mapping between the file as we implemented it in select and what React select is going to expect here. So we're basically just taking in the props that I just gave it, and we're going to do some wiring up of the change in the blur handlers and whatever else, but it's just a very slim component here, and here's where we're going to render that React select. And the result is that these dropdowns are now React select. When we come into the DOM, you can see that pretty much everything from where field icons would have been has now been replaced with React select DOM. So here's our select component, and here's where it passes down to fancy select. So what's very interesting about this is because it's a Babel transform and it happens at that level, if I were to remove an entire swath of the page using this approach, right? So if I were to just come into main and just clear out the contents of this, I could basically take over the whole app, right, from my extension, from my scaffolded app, right? So I could build a whole new app and then just say take out header, div, and footer, throw in my entire page, and all of a sudden I'd have control over everything. And because it's at the Babel level, it's actually going to tree shake all of the other things that were being imported by us that are no longer imported after your change has been made. So if I strip out the header here, even though it's imported in this file, if I don't actually render header because my targetable call has removed it and replaced it with something else, it's not actually going to import header, even though this statement is here. It's actually going to discard it from the bundle and not serve it until it's imported and actually used somewhere else. So we're able to make these targeted changes, and we don't even have to go through and manually tell it, don't import header. We don't want to overserve code. It'll actually just tree shake that because it'll understand that code that was removed through this method is not used. So all told, 45 lines of a component, 13 lines of intercept, and I can replace every select on the site. Should be a lot easier to use for those of you trying to do stuff in your own apps than the existing method, which is, of course, having to copy over a lot of files and make manual changes. So look for that PR to land shortly. We are pushing that through QA now and should land in develop soon.
Awesome, Jimmy. Yeah, I think we should have done a comparison there of like how many lines of code that would have taken before targetables, and that it's like 4 lines of code now.
Yeah, we only have so much time, Tommy.
Like that's the demo right there. But that was really impressive. I think anybody with a scaffolded app probably it's much clearer now, kind of what the vision is, like what it means that Vinia concept is like a template, and you kind of build upon it from there. All right, we got some activity in the chat. Less lines of code, less overrides, the better. So this is also the kind of first step into like us identifying targets as well. Like this still opens it up to even us being able to implement them a lot easier with less lines of code. So all right. Well, any other questions for Jimmy or Calcabin? Extensibility, fun time. Everybody just needs to go get their hands in it, start messing around. 'Cause that's kind of where we're at. We're like, it appears to solve a problem, but like you kind of don't know until you start messing with it. So please get your hands on that. And
I wanna emphasize, right, that we're adding this to scaffolded apps because that's where people are making final decisions about what they want their app to be, right? It's gonna be an effort to try and bring this to extensions because we're gonna have to take some subset of this power and expose it, but not all of it, so that we're not in a place where extensions are all just completely incompatible with one another, right? So we're definitely going to need people dive in, use it, and help us out, get it right for extensions. We need to hit the right balance there between offering them power and making our lives crazy.
Yep, but I know Lars is kind of already taken the helm there, and he's taken a stab at like payment methods. Like that's a very simple entry point that probably every implementer will need to access. So Lars is kind of like taking that first step, helping us identify where these extension points need to live. We kind of like all have a general idea, but like we want to be sensitive that like every file in the app isn't like a target or an intercept.
Right.
Yeah, from my point of view, this pull request makes things so much easier because I know how complex it was before to register a target, and now I was able in 30 lines to add a new target for payment methods and move out Braintree. Okay, I have one or two things to solve about tests because now I need to solve testing additionally because there is no payment method on tests. But yeah, this is a thing what I need to solve, and then I'm fine.
Awesome.
Looking forward to that.
Sorry?
Looking forward to it, Lars.
Lars,
Can't
he
wait
said
to
he
see
was.
it.
Yep.
All
Yeah,
right.
hopefully I can solve it in the evening.
So, to round things out, I will try to return some of your day to you. Right now, happening is MageCONF Contribution Day, so a 24-hour, not quite in person like the pictures here, but all virtual. Yeah, go and sign up and register. I think there's a hop-in link where some PWA Studio folks will be sitting around fielding questions. We also have we curated some content for this, so if you are unfamiliar, I'll walk you through again on how to get to our community backlog. So items in this prioritized column are what we consider stories or features that we are willing to support, like meaning if you have questions about how to implement, we will be there to support you on implementation details or any questions you might have. And also just that it's like a priority for us. We want high value work to be hitting our work streams. So we curated a ton of work here. I think some of it I probably should come in here and maintain this a little better. So once somebody dibs, looks like Martin's got that one. All right, so yeah, just come in here, try to make sure you don't grab anything that's assigned to somebody. When you want something, if you're unfamiliar with that process, you kind of just come into the ticket and you say, hey, I'm working on this, and then it'll assign it to you. You might have to go through some contribution. You have to be added to the contributors list, but that's really easy. It walks you through that. So if anybody is interested in picking up Contribution Day work, go to our PWA Studio repo, head into the community backlog in the prioritized column. We've got labels in here, but pretty much if there's anything in this column that looks interesting, or if there's anything not in this column that looks interesting and you want to work on it, just ping somebody on the PWA team, and we'll make sure that we provide you the support to do that thing you're interested in. Lars, anything to add about Contribution Day? It was 5 a.m. for me, so I didn't quite jump on first thing in the morning.
No. I'm happy to see you. If you join, you can ask me. I'm there. I think to 1 a.m. or something like that, and I will take a nap, and then we see us at 8 a.m. Ukrainian time.
So yeah, pick one or two of those 24 hours, and Lars will probably be there. But no, it's good to see. This is like way more movement than we've had on past contribution days. Like even just the 3 people so far in the past 5 hours who have picked up tasks is a huge win for us already. So continue grinding away. If you have any questions, the PWA team is available. Okay. That's the events, and then I kind of just want to round out with metrics. I like to do like a past, let's do like a year to date, just so we can put Lars on there. So Lars is still killing it year to date. I'm sure his nice payment method extensibility PR we'll help you like generate some huge snaps or something, Lars, and you can maintain the lead. But this is year to date, past 30 days. Hui is killing it. So I think we've gotten a bunch of PRs from Hui, who we've just been working through. Again, we're always the bottleneck, just trying to review things and make sure that we maintain a good level of quality for all of the contributions that we get. But those contributions have largely looked really awesome. And then we have a couple kind of docs PRs and stuff trickle in from Brendan, James, John, and Max. So thank you for those. Everybody else working on Contribution Day, you should be hitting this list soon. And yeah. Cool. All right. So I think that's all I had. I should be able to return about 15 minutes to everybody. Really quick, let me take a peek at the chat. Eric linked you to the hop in if you want to go check out Contribution Day. There's already our first PR, maybe from Lars. I might have seen two. I think we got two PRs already. And yes, more lines removed than added. And hi, Andy. I do, yeah. I think I am the king of lines removed. I delete everyone's code. Let's see. Can we actually see that? I'm up there. All right. Anyways, that's all I have. If there's any questions, we are always available in the Slack. If you want to contribute, Contribution Day is going on. If you want to contribute outside of Contribution Day, we are also open to that. Just go to the Community Backlog project in our GitHub organization, and you can find work there that is groomed and ready to go. All right. Well, that is all I have. Onwards and upwards. Smash, like, and subscribe. Honk if you like it. This has been PWA Community Sync. Everyone have a good rest of your day.
Bye.